Hello once again, everybody. Welcome to our Sockers Overtime Quarantine Talks. And we are into our fifth version of this now. Craig Elsten joining you from the quote-unquote home office in La Mesa, California. Joining us from his office up in Carlsbad is our good friend on Chiky Week, Chiky Luna, Director of Player Personnel for the Sockers, of course, four-time champion player and president of CaliFino Tequila. Chiky, thank you so much, my friend, for the time. How have you been?
Gregor, thanks for having me on, man. How have I been? Interesting, right? Interesting times. A lot of good things have come from this. A lot of bad things, obviously, but I think overall dealing with the situation as best as we can. Don't ask my kids that because they are going crazy, man. The kids are the ones right now trying to get out and about, and they miss school, they miss their friends. But you know, they're slowly starting to understand what we're dealing with now. Good things that have come from it. I've been able to be home a lot more, you know, working from home, something that I've never really done. So it's been great. I'm around the kids all the time. My wife's the only one ready to kick me out. She says, "Hey, you're here too much. You got to figure out, go do something, go sit in the backyard or something." So yeah, but man, it's been awesome getting to spend more time with the kids. It's allowed me to take a deep breath and really appreciate some of the, you know, slow down in life. I think overall, it just allowed me to appreciate a lot of what we have. And we're so busy running at a pace that's 100 miles per hour. And I think this overall in general has just allowed everyone to just take a deep breath, regroup in life in general, every aspect of life, I think. So it's been, you know, that's a good thing that has come from all this.
Some great words right there, Chiky. Now, of course, we're presenting this interview both as a video interview on our Facebook page, on our YouTube channel, also as a podcast on our Sockers Overtime podcast feed. For a moment, for our video viewers and listeners, just bear with me. A couple of housekeeping notes. We did this last week as well. The Sockers masks are here. I'm not going to put it over the headphones. However, I do have some news because we had our first original shipment of 200 of these masks. Chiky, they sold out in 2.5 days. It was insane. We put in immediately a new shipment. We thought it might take 2 weeks. I got a notice as we tape this on a Wednesday that they're available. So I'm probably, when we're done here, driving down to pick up our next set of masks. So you can go to sdsockers.com. You can order right now, and that shipment's going to start a lot sooner than we thought. We thought it might be 1st of June. It could be before the end of this week that we start shipping these masks again. So jump on that, sdsockers.com, click on the link, and anyone who buys a mask gets 25% off in the merch store. So good times. Second piece of housekeeping. You see, today I'm wearing our Sockers white retros from this year that we had on the field on January 5th. We were going to wear them one more time in a game that got postponed. We've already auctioned these bad boys away. However, last week, I went up to the Sockers offices just down the hall from where Chiky is sitting right now. And we unpacked, I think it was like 10, 11 different boxes and tubs of old Sockers memorabilia. And the biggest thing in there were jerseys. So what we're going to start doing is the first week of every month, starting with the 1st of June, we're going to do a different Sockers era jersey auction. And these are going to be actual game-worn player jerseys that you get as is, because we pulled them out of various bins and tubs from 30 and 40 years ago. But our first auction on June 1st is going to be old school. So it's going to be both some old early 80s Adidas jerseys, and it's going to be some of these classic San Diego Sockers score jerseys from the late 80s. Well, I'll tell you this, there's some Chiky jerseys coming up. So we're
See,
going to get...
Now you're setting me up for failure, man. You can't compare my name to some of those real legends that, you know, that really put the name on the map.
Well, I'm just saying, you might want to throw in a couple bids if you want to get any of your old jerseys, but that'll be probably to August. That'll be just because we're going to go era by era. We're going to do like old school, then we're going to do the return of the Sockers, and then we're going to do the undefeated season, the 2012 champs, and then we're going to do into the beyond. So we're set up for a few months. And each one of those auctions, by the way, are going to be tied to a charitable cause. Our first in June is to help afflicted families in Tijuana. So that's something that'll have a big charitable tie-in. A lot more in detail on that coming up as we get a lot closer to June 1st. But I always like to spill the beans, Chiky. Soccer's Overtime is where I spill the beans. That's where I always like put out our information, our plans 2 weeks ahead of time. And, you know, I've been safe so far. So, all right. So great. Jersey auction, mask sale, all that coming up. Now let's get to Chiky Week. It is Chiky Week. This is our week to highlight and venerate both your career and then talk about what's going on now. So I want to start off at the beginning, so to speak. Let's talk about the return of the San Diego Sockers. How did it come to pass that Phil Salvagio, Dave Pike, Carl Savoya were able to put this group together? When did you first hear about it? Tell the folks who maybe don't know a little bit about the rebirth of the Sockers in the late 2000s.
Yeah, I mean, that was a special moment for me when I first heard of the whole idea. You know, Phil being Phil sometimes has some crazy ideas way off the wall, right? And I was actually in a conversation with Phil Salvagio, Nate Hetherington, myself, and Phil came to us and said, "Hey, I'm bringing the Sockers back. I want you guys to be part of the Sockers." And I honestly looked at him and I looked at Nate, and me and Nate started laughing. Me and Nate both said, wait, like the real Sockers, or are you gonna, you know, put in some team at the YMCA and call us the Sockers? Like, what are you talking about? And he looked at us with a straight face and said, "I want to bring the San Diego Sockers back." And we thought it was an idea just so far out there, right? I said, "Man, it was fantastic." I said, "This is fantastic, great idea. I love it. Let's talk when it's a real possibility." And he said, "Dude, I'm gonna do this. I'm being serious." And I said, "Man, to me, I couldn't believe I was hearing that, because the Sockers had been gone for so many years." But it just kind of made sense. Soccer in San Diego, right? The Sockers in San Diego. Everything made sense about it at the time. And we heard the concept, we heard the idea. I wasn't too sure at first that it could happen. But as I kept hearing more and more, it was fantastic. I got excited. Said, "Man, this would be great." Then I started hearing him talking to some of these players. You're talking about your Braden Cloutier, who's a fantastic indoor player, legend. He had a talk with Sean Bowers. Once he said, "Hey, I just had a talk with Paul Wright." I went, "Holy crap." I said, "Dude, you're serious about this. So you're really looking to make this happen." And he said, "Yeah, we're gonna do this." Nate Hetherington started getting serious about it. And we started, I started watching film and going to Nate, "Hey man, I need to learn about the true indoor game. It's no longer just playing indoor to play indoor. Now you're saying, hey, you're playing for the Sockers, you're playing indoor at a high level." So part of it wasn't only, hey, let's get fit to play at that level. It was, let's study the game. We started watching the California Cougars. That was one of the big teams at the time. They were up in Stockton. So we started watching a little bit about them, seeing the tendencies, because the game changes year by year. So the Sockers being gone for so many years, and a lot of us being removed from that level of competition for a few years, it takes a while to get your legs back and get the mentality back of playing at that level. So it was interesting. It was an idea that I honestly did not believe would happen. But once it started moving along and we started seeing that, man, this is a true possibility. It was, it took me back to like when I was 14, 15, going into a big tournament, and you're super excited. You sleep with your uniform on the night before, and you can't wait, to wake up and get out in the field. And it was that exact same feeling again.
That's amazing. How did you first meet Phil Salvagio and become friends?
Me and Phil have an interesting relationship. We met, the very first time we met was playing against each other. Phil, obviously he played with the Sockers in the 90s. Great goalie. So we were playing against each other in Encinitas, and that's where we kind of played against each other. I knew who he was. Somebody on his team knew who I was, and we got to talking after. And it was just at first it was playing against each other. Got to know each other there through mutual friends, and then we ended up playing it was a futsal tournament together the first time that we played, and played as teammates. He liked the style of play that I had at the time, is like the style of soccer that I was playing. I thought he was a fantastic goalie, and that just kind of, we gravitated towards each other, got to know each other, got to playing together a little bit more. And as time went on, I mean, we became really good friends. We're very similar with our backgrounds, right? Our family backgrounds are very similar. He comes from an Italian background. I come from a Mexican background. Our upbringing, a lot of what we have, our values as people and as family, they're very much alike. So it was very easy for us to get along, get to know each other. The more we got to know each other, it was, hey, this guy is a really good dude, and vice versa. And we just developed a relationship. We developed a friendship before we developed the player coach relationship.
So that first season for the San Diego Sockers, 2009, 2010, the Sockers are playing at the Del Mar Arena. They're playing outdoors. Not outdoors, there's a roof, but there's openings on either side. There was at least one rainy day per season, the 3 years we were in Del Mar, that would definitely turn the game sideways. A very different feel. The PASL at that time, so new that, of course, they were importing Liga Mexicana Futbol Rapido clubs to come up to play in the championship. And I think about two games, Chiky, at the very beginning of this whole journey, because I remember that first year I was doing PA for you guys. I was on the road about halfway through doing radio for you guys, but wasn't, front office yet. But I remember a lot of the talk. People were like, yeah, the old Sockers, this ain't the new Sockers. The new Sockers, and winning was going to be incredibly important, is the point I'm driving at. It was so important for the Sockers to win a championship, a U.S. Open Cup, that first year, to tie the first 10 championships to something new, to a new piece of hardware. And so I'm thinking about two games at the Del Mar Arena. One, of course, being that championship match against Guadalajara that year, which had Miguel Vaca on that team, had Omar Santillan, had a number of players who are current Monterrey Flash. But the game before that was a semifinal U.S. Open Cup game. We played, I don't even remember, it was some team from Texas. And we were going to lose that game. And Chiky Luna had 5 goals that game, scored a set-piece winner, maybe 45, 50 seconds left in the game. We won that, went on after the championship to go play in Louisville and win the U.S. Open Cup that year. But I just wonder if you remember about those cold nights at Del Mar, where on a couple of nights, maybe the entire Sockers franchise and us being where we are 12 years later was hanging on posting a result that
night. Those are fun memories, right? At that time, I considered myself a kid learning and just trying to hang in there with some of these big names, some of these big players. I was on the field with Paul Wright. Man, I had to make sure and do the right things, because Paul Wright would look at you, and you were more scared of Paul Wright or a Sean Bowers than you were of Phil on the bench, right? So at that time, we had a good combination. We had experience. We had guys that had been through it. We had winners. Paul Wright is a winner. I don't care what anybody says, Paul Wright is a winner. You had Sean Bowers, the experience, the leadership. Look at where he's at in life. It doesn't surprise me. Sean is a winner. Aaron Susi. Aaron Susi, same thing. He great player at the time. He was at his prime. He's a winner. He's going to do what it takes to win. We had Craig Childs was on the team, and Craig used to get a few shifts here and there. He was to start out the season. Craig was, I don't want to say a defensive runner, but Craig was playing behind Susie. Nobody knew who Craig was, and Craig was just scoring goals. He was doing what he does. Then we had other players that were up and coming, young players that had never played the game, but very talented, and everyone had the right mentality. At that first season, everyone did it for the right reasons, right? You had your Diego, you had Scotty, you had Riley Swift. I mean, I could go down the line, Nate, obviously. We just had a list of players, and everyone was doing it for the love of the game. No one was in contract disputes. No one wanted to go back and forth about their contract. Whatever it was at the time, everyone was just happy to have indoor soccer back in San Diego. Everyone was very happy to put on a Sockers jersey that season. So everyone was in it for the right reasons, the right time, and we were all in it to try to get the name back on the map, because we weren't sure, honestly, if the Sockers would make it a second season. So we were working hard, saying, "Hey, let's work hard. Let's give ourselves a second season, a second chance to play this game."
And exactly that happened. Sockers prevailed 9-8 in that La Raza de Guadalajara championship match at the Del Mar Arena, and Riley Swift was named the playoff MVP. The Sockers went on, of course, their second year to win a championship in Cincinnati, won the U.S. Open Cup that year as well. And then 2011, 2012 was the 3-trophy year, the greatest year in the return of the Sockers, 24-0. The over half of the 48-match winning streak was, well, exactly half, was contained in that season. And you won the U.S. Open Cup, you won the championship, the PASL championship, defeating Detroit, and you also won the FIFA championship down in Monterey, beating the Flash in Monterey 2 different times in that quickie tournament in order to capture that cup, which is pretty close to my office desk in our Sockers office right now. What are your memories of that 2011-2012 season, that perfect season?
Man, once again, the team that we had, the teammates, right? We developed a bond in that locker room where we were all watching out for each other. We knew we went into every game knowing we would win that game, right? There was a lot of games where we started off slow and we would be down, but there was never a doubt in anybody's mind that we would come through and win, right? We didn't have any quitters on the team. We had a bunch of winners. So when the games got tough, we figured out a way to win. We figured out how we were going to do it. We knew we were talented. We knew we had what it took to win the games, but it's a matter, it's a fine line between winning and not winning. It's a fine line between being a very good team and being a championship team. If you are mentally strong to where you can really, when it comes to it, if you can tie down and say, I'm not going to lose my one-on-one battle, you're going to win that game, right? And we had that team that year. Everyone was strong enough mentally, and we had enough winners on the team to make it through. And I mean, that year was fantastic. I mean, winning is fantastic. So, I still remember from the start of the season, winning those games to the end of the season, just sitting there celebrating in the locker room going, holy crap, we just did this. It was fantastic.
And at the end of that season, then there were some very special things that were cooking for the San Diego Sockers franchise. We talk about these touchstones to get from where we were shivering at Del Mar Arena to where we are now, 12 years in and very much established, and just a vibrant franchise once again, and, how important 09 was to win. But 11-12, the perfect season and bringing a giant winning streak into the return to the sports arena. because 2012-13, the first year for the Sockers back in the sports arena, back fully enclosed, back in the original home, the grand old arena, the hallowed stomping grounds, Ron Newman Field, the whole 9 yards. But thanks to that, the Sockers had gained by the start of the 2012-13 season, Chiky, both the legitimacy of 3 straight titles in an undefeated season and a winning streak that later on that year would be the greatest in U.S. pro sports history, but also that feeling of we're no longer out here. We're back home. We're back where we belong. So again, I kind of think just about at the time, you don't realize how important it was. But in order to really kick off 12-13 the way that you guys wanted to, you needed everything to have lined up, all those dominoes to have fallen properly in the years before.
Right. And it was fantastic. It felt like, hey, we worked hard to earn that. And then when we finally got there to go to the sports arena, we had done our work, we had earned it. And, we were now stepping up with the big boys. So now it was time to, hey, we're at the big arena, we're where the soccer should be. And it makes me proud now when I think about it, because I feel like I contributed a little bit to helping build the franchise back up, right? I built a lot of relationships with our team, with the staff, and it's memories that you can't take back. It was fantastic to be a part of such a great group, and it's just fantastic now to be a part of this fantastic franchise.
And it's, as we talk about it, my own personal memories are kind of bubbling up. And that 2012-13 soccer season, which was the 14th championship, and we're going to get to this down the road, but unfortunately it's the last time until the next time that the Sockers have raised a championship banner. But that year, that first year back in the sports arena, to me is the most magical year of the Sockers' return, because you had the end of the 48-game winning streak, which means you had setting the pro sports record at home, winning your 40th in a row. Then all of these crazy games, because the couple years prior, the Sockers were just heads and shoulders above the rest of the PASL. They were easily the best team. And you rolled out an undefeated season. But 2012-13, the league was catching up to the Sockers. It was starting to happen. There were clubs that were able to compete with you guys on a given night. And, Detroit beat you guys in the U.S. Open Cup Championship on the road, playing in an arena that had maybe a 10-foot ceiling, as I remember. Dallas beat you guys at the Allen Event Center in overtime, and then almost beat you the next game back. And it took Zay scoring with 8 seconds left and Eddie scoring with like 40 seconds left, and then Eddie scoring with no time left to win that game. The Vegas game in the semifinals comes down to a Chiky Luna overtime scissor kick golden goal. The Detroit game is tied in the fourth quarter, and it comes down to a Chiky Luna game-winning goal that was a happy and very fortunate for us deflection, and a championship deflection, as it turned out. So, like, all the stuff, all the hard work that preceded 2012-13 turned into this year where it felt like you turned over every magic card possible in that season.
Yeah, and that goes back to, I think the phrase was soccer's magic at the time, right? We believed, and it truly was soccer's magic. Everyone on that field, everyone wearing that jersey believed we would win those games. We didn't have anyone that was mentally weak or that would fold when it came down to it. In a tough time, everyone wanted to win. So, those memories are fantastic, winning there at the sports arena where, the Sockers were built. We were back home, and it was just fantastic to be able to be a part of all that. You mentioned that playoff series, Vegas. What a fantastic team they had. Mayor in Vegas did a fantastic job. It was funny. Him and Phil, were such competitors, always going at it. Nothing but love between those guys now. But, as competitors, you go at each other. And Mayor, I think, did a fantastic job building that team. And if you ask him now, I bet you he built that team to beat the Sockers, not to win necessarily. He just wanted to beat the Sockers, and that's what it was. That was a fantastic game against Vegas in that semifinal. And then the final, Detroit came in with all the experience in the world. They had great players that had played all over, and they were ready to take it to us. They came in with a swagger. They had beat us. They came in confident. I remember the warm-ups. They were very confident. And we pulled it off, which are looking back at that game, it was a fantastic game. Great game for the crowd. Great game for us, and we stuck through it, stuck with the game plan, and ended up winning that championship.
Chiky had some amazing moments in that game. One very late, as we talked about, a deflected goal. Another one came a little bit earlier, if you might remember.
Yeah, I remember that. It's part of the game, part of the competitive nature. We got into a little, I guess, a little scuffle, and we collided. Luckily, I was able to get out of the way, and I was able to dodge his head from hitting mine, and it accidentally hit my elbow.
Yeah, Mickey Jerusalem.
Yeah, I still remember that.
Remembers you very well too. I was just watching that game for Eddie week. I was watching the game so I could cut the highlights of Eddie's great play in that game, and that was something that I kind of had forgotten about. And I'm like, oh yeah, Mickey Jerusalem and Chiky's elbow had a little bit of a meet and greet.